Hi, I'm David Manti with Industrial Equipment News, and with me again is Alan Grau, VP of IoT with Sectigo. Thanks for joining me again today, Alan.
Thanks, David.
So, what I wanted to talk today about was protecting industrial facilities, and I believe that you have at least 3 ways that industrial facilities can protect against cyber attacks, and I wanted to cover those today. So where would you start?
Yeah, well, there's really a lot of things that come into play. I mean, one of the really critical starting points is making sure you take a holistic view for security on your networks. They're one of the things hackers are really good at doing is kind of finding that the weak link in your security posture, your security chain. And so, starting out, you really can't take just a point view of security. But there's really some security fundamentals that are really critical. I mean, the first of those would just be making sure that all your devices are up to date. Firmware is up to date, software is up to date, that you have patches installed on all of your devices. And that can be a bigger challenge in an industrial space where you're running older equipment. Sometimes you have devices that are out of support, and that raises the bar or makes some additional challenges. But it's pretty common that hackers will exploit older, out-of-date software that has known vulnerabilities to break into systems. So that's certainly one approach I would take. If you're looking at an industrial facility, there are some very specific systems that have been designed that provide monitoring and intrusion detection capability, specifically around industrial control protocols and other kind of industrial are designed to solve the security problems of industrial networks, right? They've built firewall rules and other monitoring rules specifically for those environments and that recognize some of the common attacks for those spaces. So, investigating some of those solutions would be another approach. And then I think the third thing I would look at is moving towards a zero trust network architecture. That's something that we've seen be adopted much more broadly in kind of core IT use cases. In the IT world, or the kind of the standard network architecture, the idea of a network perimeter really has evaporated. Right? You have people working from home. You may still have your corporate data center, but you probably have some things working in the cloud. And the idea of a zero trust network architecture is that you don't trust anything by default. Everything has to authenticate before you trust it. So if it's a remote worker connecting to the systems from home, before you allow the system to connect, you authenticate it, as opposed to kind of the old motto where, well, if something was inside the network, it was automatically trusted. And so, that's a really important piece of the security element, because even with a network, just because something's inside the network, there's no guarantee that you really should trust it. And part of the zero trust network architecture is, again, ensuring that every device and every application that are connecting to these services has a strong identity. They have something to allow them to authenticate with. And one of the common techniques there is using digital certificates and PKI. It just provides a very strong security capability for authenticating that's widely deployed, it's well understood, and just is very, very flexible and works in a very very secure manner for authenticating devices in that type of an architecture.
So we've heard of a lot of companies that are maybe not going back to the office at all. Some are going back in a hybrid approach. Some people are doing split weeks, which is the hybrid approach, so redundant. But some people are going back full time. Has this caused sort of a IT nightmare as they're trying to figure out people working in disparate parts of the U.S. or the globe, all for the same company?
Yeah, I think the whole massive overnight shift to work from home caused by COVID really did accelerate teams working on things like zero trust network access, ensuring that you have strong remote authentication for workers trying to connect into corporate resources. In some companies, it was just kind of the natural next step in what they were doing, and it wasn't a big stretch for them to do so. I mean, I work from home. I've worked from home well before COVID hit. I'd been working from home, so for me, it really was, no change in terms of my computing requirements or my authentication requirements. And so we were set up well for that. But that's also kind of we're one of the core providers of digital identities, so it was a natural fit for our environment. Other companies really struggled. It was a much heavier lift because they didn't have the systems in place to allow people to work remotely in a way that was secure and gave them access to the resources they needed without being, left open to attack.
Okay. One of the things is that, we're on Zoom right now. People are using Teams, Google Meet. Is anyone in particular more secure than another when it comes to company meetings?
Great question, and I know that um, there have been some security vulnerabilities on some of the tools used for meetings, and part of that is, some of those have been addressed. I know, Zoom bought a company recently focused on cybersecurity to allow them to build greater security controls into their product. Um, and then some of it is actually gets back to user behavior and how people were setting up meetings, whether you allow people to enter by default. I mean, just simple things, um, having people crash meetings that shouldn't be there, which could be really critical if you're talking about, very sensitive corporate strategy or things like that. In addition to people actually just being able to, intercept the traffic. So, I haven't really done a close look at the various systems, but I do know that, researchers, with the explosion of remote meetings like these, researchers have spent a lot of effort looking at some of the different solutions and have found some vulnerabilities that the companies are addressing. So I do think that, the solutions are getting better.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today, Alan. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
All right. For Alan Grau, VP of IoT with Sectigo, I'm David Mantia with Industrial Equipment News, and we'll see you next time.